The hidden meanings in the parables of Jesus are not a conspiracy theory or a fabrication. They are a biblical fact. Many of them were even unclear to the apostles until Christ himself explained their meaning. Let's recall the parable of the sower. Some might say it's just a simple story about rural labor, but behind it lies a profound truth about spiritual growth, different types of hearts, and the readiness to receive the truth. And it's the same with every parable. In our video, we won't just explain what each story means. We will try to hear them anew. We will look at them from the perspective of the 21st century. What does the parable of the unforgiving debtor tell us in an age of credit and loans? How does the parable of the prodigal son resonate in a world where the concept of father increasingly becomes a symbol of absence rather than support? The parable of the sower is one of the most well-known and at the same time one of the deepest. It appears in 3 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Starts simply. A man goes out to sow seeds. The seeds fall on different types of soil and yield different results accordingly. At first glance, it seems like just an ordinary agricultural scene. But when the disciples ask for an explanation, Jesus reveals the essence. The seed is the word of God, and the soil is the human heart. The first soil is by the road, where birds quickly eat the seeds. These are the people who hear but do not understand, and the evil one snatches away what was sown, not even giving it a chance to take root. The second type is rocky ground. Here the seed sprouts quickly but has no depth, so when difficulties arise, it withers. These are those who receive the word with joy but have no root. Their faith is superficial. The third is thorny soil. The seed seems to grow but is choked by worries, wealth, and distractions. Finally, the fourth soil is good, soft, and moist. Here the seed produces a crop, yielding 30, 60, and even 100-fold. Jesus isn't just categorizing soil types. He's showing a reality where the same message receives 4 different responses. What matters is not only what you hear, but who you are when you listen. What kind of soil are you? In today's world, this parable feels frighteningly relevant. We live in an information flood. Every day, thousands of meanings are sown into us. From news to memes, from philosophical ideas to advertising slogans. But what kind of soil is our mind? Has it become the roadside of the internet highway, where everything heard disappears immediately? Have the thorns of busyness choked the shoots of faith? The key point of this parable is not that some are doomed to be rocky or thorny. No, the parable is not a verdict but a mirror. You can see yourself and change. Realize that your reactions to the word, to truth, to the spiritual are not random. They reflect the condition of your heart. Interestingly, Jesus ends the parable with the words, "He who has ears, let him hear." He doesn't say, "Let everyone understand." He says, "Let those who are able hear." And that is the challenge. To be not just a listener but a participant. Not just to hear sounds, but to listen to the truth. So next time you hear something important, whether a phrase, a thought, or a revelation, ask yourself, what kind of soil am I? What will happen to this seed? The parable of the sower is a call to self-examination, to spiritual attentiveness. It teaches not only to listen, but also to keep and nurture. At first glance, the parable of the Good Samaritan seems like a simple story about helping others. But beneath this surface lies a powerful challenge to social stereotypes, religious hypocrisy, and narrow-minded nationalism. The parable begins with a question, "Who is my neighbor?" It is asked by a lawyer hoping to justify himself. Jesus doesn't respond with a theory but with a story. On the road from Jerusalem to Jericho, a dangerous, hot, and winding path, a man fell into the hands of robbers. They beat him, robbed him, and left him barely alive. A priest passes by, sees the man, and moves on. A Levite also passes without helping. But then a Samaritan comes along. He stops, binds the wounds, puts the man on his donkey, takes him to an inn, and pays for his care. For the Jewish audience of that time, this was a cultural shock. Samaritans were considered heretics, half-breeds, outsiders. Saying the Samaritan is good was like saying today, a terrorist saved the wounded. It shattered expectations. The main message is clear. A neighbor is not defined by blood, religion, or social status. A neighbor is one who shows mercy. And conversely, you become a neighbor when you do not pass by. Jesus uses this parable as a mirror. He doesn't just answer the lawyer's question. He flips it. The question isn't, who is my neighbor? But, am I a neighbor to others? This is a fundamental shift from what am I owed to what can I give? In the 21st century, this parable sounds even louder. In a world where we divide people into us and them by politics, nationality, or faith, Christ says, a neighbor is anyone in need, and you are not righteous if you keep rituals but pass by suffering. In times of global crises, wars, migration, and poverty, when hundreds of thousands lie on the road, beaten down by the system, indifference, and loneliness, who will be the Samaritan? You? Or will you pass by like the priest and Levite? There's one more point. The Samaritan does not just help. He sacrifices time, money, and risks his own safety. Help comes at a cost. It's not convenient, and that is another challenge. Mercy is not just a feeling. It is a way of life. So who are you in this parable? The one lying there? The one who walks by? Or the one who stops? Jesus ends the parable simply, go and do likewise. He leaves no room for theory. He calls for action. This is one of the most famous parables of Christ. But within it lies a paradox. Jesus tells this story to explain why not everyone is able to understand his words. The parable of the sower is the key to understanding spiritual deafness. The sower went out to sow. It all begins so simply. The seed falls on 4 types of soil. The path, rocky ground, among thorns, and on good soil. Only the last one yields a harvest. But what are these soils? They are images of the human heart. They are us. The soil by the path represents those who hear but immediately forget. The word doesn't have time to penetrate before it is stolen away by distractions, busyness, or, as Christ says, the devil. Today, this could be the endless flow of news, social media, entertainment. Everything that distracts us from the essence. The rocky soil is people who receive the word with joy but have no root. They lack depth. At the first trial, difficulty, or unpopular opinion, they fall away. This is a superficial faith, emotional, without reflection, without practice. It lasts only until the first inconvenience. The thorny soil represents the worries of this world, the deceitfulness of wealth, and other desires. This is the most insidious soil. The word sprouts but is choked by everyday concerns. It's about those who seem to believe but do not act, who are too busy, who are consumed by themselves. It's a heart clogged with greed. And finally, the good soil is those who hear, accept, reflect, and bear fruit. And the fruit is not always the same. Some 30-fold, some 100-fold. But the main thing is that growth happens. The parable of the sower is not just about those who listen to Jesus. It's about each of us, every day. What kind of heart do you have today? Where does the seed fall and does it grow? An interesting point. Jesus often repeats in this parable, he who has ears, let him hear. This isn't about physical ears. It's about an open heart, about the desire to hear, understand, and accept. The world today is full of noise, but if the heart is hardened, you won't hear even God. And on the other hand, even in silence, you can hear the eternal if you are open. And one more thing, Jesus is not an agronomist. He doesn't look for perfect soil. He sows generously everywhere. This is an image of unconditional love. God gives everyone a chance. He does not divide people into promising and hopeless. He sows, and the fruit depends on us. So where are you in this parable? What stones, thorns, or birds are in your heart? Are you ready to become good soil? Christ does not condemn. He calls for the cleansing of the soil, for silence, for attention, for growth.